Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of D3 Week Chats on Zoom today. We're not live on Facebook, unfortunately, due to technical issues, but we will be on Facebook eventually today. Today, we'll be talking about well-being, and we've got a panel of 4 experts in the field today joining me. You see, we have 2 members of the staff, Mike Hoyt and Cindy Wright, as well as 2 of our esteemed student athletes, Shane Manieri from baseball and Emily Wielk from the track and field team. I'm just going to let the panelists introduce themselves real quick. So, Mike, let's start with you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Hoyt. I'm the head strength coach here at Gettysburg College. Became the head strength coach back in February. I've been at Gettysburg College now for 2 years. Was an assistant strength coach, and then I also am an assistant coach with the football program. So I'm excited to be here today.
Thanks, Mike. And Cindy, now it's your turn. You're joining the 3-decade club I've got going on for these chats this week.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cindy Wright. And before I introduce myself, I want to give a shout out to Corey and his team, because I have been watching all the work that he's done with D3 Week, and it's been phenomenal. And so, Corey, great job. I just want to definitely use this time to give you a quick little plug. You and your team are doing a great job. My title is Director of EES Student Success and Wellbeing. And what that really means is that I'm strategically paying attention to all the students in regards to their overall well-being. And I do that in a lot of different ways. I do it with campus recreation, overseeing that. I oversee the student athlete well-being pilot. But I also am connected across campus in a lot of different initiatives that are lifting up well-being and paying attention to that. I've been here a long time. My husband was the former athletic director, and he was also the head men's tennis and soccer coach. And in the early days, he was assistant track under Ed Riggs. So we go way back. And then my 3 daughters are graduates of Gettysburg College, and I have to attribute their phenomenal careers because of Gettysburg and its great liberal arts education. Our oldest daughter, Shayna, was a Bullet. She played for Matt as a soccer player, and some of her very best friends were made here at Gettysburg College playing soccer.
Thanks, Cindy. Yeah, of course, we got to mention good old what's-his-name, Dave, hunkered down at the Subiaco Academy in Arkansas right now, if I'm not mistaken, right? Is he still there? And now, Shane, if you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Shane Manieri. I'm a sophomore baseball player. I'm majoring in mathematical economics, and I'm minoring in Spanish. Right now, I'm just kind of with everyone else here as we take our online classes, but I look forward to talking about mental health and well-being, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
And of course, Shane, I mean, you got 5 homers on your career resume, and you're 300 hitter too. So I got the stats for you, at least there, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, after 10 games this season, I'm kind of glad I kind of boosted some numbers from last year, so that's always good.
Yeah, went off the field. I just checked this morning, hitting 526. It's not too bad.
Yeah, career, that's pretty good, so I'm happy with that.
And Emily, of course, you and Shane had your seasons cut short. You competed on the track and field team. You want to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Emily Wielk, a senior sociology, public policy double major, 2-year captain of the track and field team. Obviously, I've been at Gettysburg 4 years now. Sadly, it will come to an end very soon. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to talk about well-being. I think it's been a pretty important topic to me throughout this entire year, so I'm kind of happy to get to talk about it a little bit more before my career is over.
Thank you, Emily. And of course, you and Shane are both on that S.A.I.L program that we have at Gettysburg that we'll talk a little bit more about as well. But we're going to swing things over to Mike Hoyt, our resident strength and conditioning expert. And Mike, obviously with well-being, starting with the physical aspects of it, you and your staff do a lot of different things with our athletes. Just talk about physical well-being and how important it is for the student athletes and teams at Gettysburg College.
Yeah, so, the first thing, and it's pretty obvious, exercise, nutrition, a great exercise program, good nutrition is going to allow athletes to perform at a high level in their sport. So we pretty much know, that's something that is pretty obvious from a strength and conditioning standpoint, and being injury-free too. The 2 goals that we have as a strength and conditioning staff, number one, is to allow our athletes to perform at the highest level. But then secondly, we want them to be able to withstand a season of competition and be injury free. So those are the two most common things. But there's a lot of other things that go along with that too. And I know Cindy, Shane, and Emily are going to get into this a little bit too, so I don't want to steal their thunder, but we know that there's a link between the mind and the body. So as your body starts to feel better and you improve in the different areas physically, you're going to experience stress reduction. And then also, as your body starts to grow, become more muscular and leaner and stuff like that, there's a self-esteem factor that comes along with that. So that's a big part of it. And that leads to self-confidence, both on the competitive field, the court, or off the field as well. And that translates into the classroom and things like that. So there's so many positive aspects that come from a great training program for an athlete.
Of course, with that training program too, you and your staff have a lot of daily interactions with our student athletes. Talk about some of the programs you guys run, some of the training schedules you maintain throughout the year, in the off season as well as in season.
Yeah, so we have 11 strength coaches here at Gettysburg, 11 assistants with great staff to work with. And each one of them is in charge of different sports that they're working with. And our goal is to have year-round training programs that are specifically tailored for the needs of the individual athlete. So, that's based on sport. A basketball athlete is not going to train the same way a softball athlete will. So there are specific needs that they have, and those programs are designed for that. And they compete at different times of the year. So their training will be different. Obviously, their off-season training will be at a different time of the year, and that training is different with different goals based on the in-season training with different goals and things of that nature. We're trying to improve strength and power, agility, speed, aerobic conditioning, anaerobic conditioning. That's all obviously based on the needs of the athlete. So that's a big part of it there. Another part of it is working on areas of improvement. So whether that is a specific team, we may see, a specific team that needs to get stronger, or maybe a specific team needs to improve their agility or their speed. So we'll have a program that's geared towards that, but then also the individual athlete too, because every athlete's at a different point in their development. So maybe there's a specific athlete that needs to get stronger, or a specific athlete that needs to become more agile. So we can tailor those programs individually as well to meet those needs. And then the other thing too is their training experience. So a program for an incoming freshman, their program will look different than a junior or senior that's been in a strength program for 2, 3, 4 years, just because of where they are in their development as an athlete. So, there's a lot of planning that goes into it. And like I said, we've got a great staff that does a phenomenal job of planning all those things in a year-round plan, so that our athletes are training safely, but they're also training effectively and can continue to improve and become better athletes because of it.
So, Mike, the final question I had for you obviously involves our current state of affairs. We're all kind of stuck at home. We're at the mercy of whatever workout equipment we have, whether it's old treadmills from the Jaeger Center, which I have in my basement, or some workout gear that we've picked up through the years, or maybe it's just body weight or running outside in the cul-de-sac. So what are some helpful tips you have for our student athletes, even staff members and coaches that are currently at home trying to figure things out from a physical perspective?
Yeah, you're right. This is definitely a challenging time for our athletes, and it's challenging time for our coaches too, because, we as coaches, the reason we go into this profession is because we want to work hand in hand with athletes and see them on a daily basis and watch them improve and grow as people and athletes. And when you're distanced like this, it's hard to see them perform and evaluate where they are and get that feedback. So everything has to be done virtually in settings like this through email, text messages, phone calls. So, there's a challenge there. Just a couple things that we're doing as a strength staff. We're using Volt, which is an online platform, which is really allows our athletes to adjust their program based on the availability of equipment that they have. Volt has done a great job here just recently, kind of putting different features with that online program. That's the most recent one. So whether they have a full complement of strength equipment at their house, or they don't have anything where they got to do body weight. We've got athletes that on either end of the spectrum and everywhere in between. So that's been a huge help, being able to adjust programs based on that. Google Classroom has been huge. So we as coaches, some of us are using that to where we can manipulate the program based on the availability that different athletes have. And again, it ranges from, it's been great. Some athletes, their homes, they've got a full gym in their basement. It's crazy. And then other athletes, they don't have anything. So, just being flexible and being able to come up with programs that have some variety, from a body weight program all the way up to a full complement of equipment. A couple things that I've recommended to the athletes that I've been working with specifically, make sure you maintain a routine. I tell them to discipline themselves, carve out time every day that this is my time to train, whether it's the same time you were training when you were on campus, or maybe because you're at home now, it's got to be a different time of the day. But just be disciplined and really try to be, schedule your day so that every day, hey, this is my time for strength and conditioning. The other thing that I encourage is if you have a sibling or a family member, to be a training partner. I'm getting videos on a regular basis from the athletes I'm working with, and they're going through different exercises, and I see a sibling working right alongside them or being a spotter for them or holding a stopwatch and timing them. So I'm encouraging athletes to utilize the people that they have around them in their particular setting to be a training partner or somebody that can act as a coach and give them feedback and spotting and timing and stuff like that. The other thing is just encouraging them to communicate with us. We have a great staff here, whether it's the assistant coach that's in charge of their sport with strength and conditioning, or it's myself. Just encourage them to reach out and communicate what issues are they facing, so that we can come up with a plan and how we can help guide them through that and help them continue to grow and develop from the physical standpoint as they continue to prepare for their sport.
It would certainly have to be a little bit more creative with what we have available. I know I just chase my kids around for a couple hours every day, and that's a good way to get some physical activity. Thanks, Mike. We'll swing it back to you at the end before we head off for another fun question. Cindy, you are next on the schedule I have here, and we're going to be talking more from the mental health perspective, and there's a lot of factors that go into that. So if you want to talk about that side of things, by all means, the podium is yours.
Take the mic away. You got it. Well, to give you a little background, when we talk about well-being, we like to, in our student athlete well-being pilot, we are using the Gallup model, which has 5 essential elements of well-being with it. And in that, one of the first is talking about your career or having a sense of purpose. And we do such a phenomenal job at Gettysburg College with our career engagement. And there are so many tools that they have currently, especially online right now. One of the things I wanted to highlight too is something called Connect Gettysburg. And it's a way for our alums and our parents and our friends of the college to help our students as they get ready to launch into their after their senior year into a new career. Another dimension of well-being is the social aspect. And that's where we're seeing a lot of anxiety starting to come up because our students aren't here right now on campus. So we're all connecting through this Zoom type of virtual reality, but it's really having that place of having some strong relationships. Do you have love in your life? Another aspect that is part of this well-being is financial. And we're seeing with the financial aspect, again, that is an area that is really bubbling up, especially with this pandemic right now, where students' parents are losing their jobs. Our student workers aren't on campus making money. We don't know what the future holds with this virus. So there's a lot of anxiety around finances. And with a great alum, his name is Mort Creech, he donated money to the college and endowed funds to help us purchase a tool called iGrad. So if you go on to admissions website, you will find a link for financial well-being. And if you click on that, you're going to see all kinds of things that you can get involved in, like different articles you can read, courses you can take. And they have specifically adapted this tool to the coronavirus. So that's also a place for people to look when they're feeling a lot of anxiousness around the financial aspect. Another aspect is just like Mike talked about, the physical. And everybody usually thinks about physical first when we talk about well-being, just like Mike was saying. And everyone usually thinks about just working out, but Mike drew attention to that it's also about eating well and sleeping. And we're constantly hammering home with our athletes, are you getting enough rest? And we're even trying to pay attention to that right now with everyone with their screen time. Are you getting enough rest? Are you really, unplugging so that you can be fresh for the next day? And then the last dimension of it is community. And in community, with community, it's feeling like you're engaged where you're living and that people care about you. And again, when we're on campus, we have that sense of community and engagement, but we're trying to pay attention to that. And our coaches are reaching out to our athletes every day, really trying to keep them engaged. Our professors, of course, are online. So the engagement doesn't have to end, even though we're virtual now. And then when you think about the anxiety, whenever these different dimensions start to get out of whack a little bit, that's when people start to feel the anxiety and the overwhelmingness start to happen. And with that, you can see the students reaching out a little bit more. We're on it when it comes to our staff. We're trying to pay attention to the students that might be struggling at a higher level. But it's for all of us, really, because none of us have been through anything like this pandemic. And so even our coaches and our professors and our administrators at Gettysburg can sometimes feel a sense of overwhelmingness as they go forward.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned some great online resources, Connect Gettysburg, which we actually talked about the other day. Colin Devlin mentioned that in our conversation about academics and connecting with alumni and iGrad too from a financial perspective. What are some physical resources on campus that students may or may not know about?
Sure. Well, a great place to go too is visiting the counseling website, because on the counseling website, they have put together a beautiful resource of all kinds of guides, apps, the Calm app, and things like that you could resource as well. The other thing I want to draw attention to is often students will feel like they might be alone in a situation. And I want everyone to sit and reflect for a moment and think about, who is your circle of support? Maybe it is your parents, maybe it's not, maybe it's your siblings, maybe it's not. But it could definitely be the coaches that are in your life, the professors, your advisors. Corey is a mentor to a lot of our students on campus. You have, of course, me and our team. So there's a lot of people that are circling our students right now, really paying attention to them. I'd like to share a couple other little tools that I have found very helpful with students that I'm working with when they're really struggling. And one I have to give credit to for my brother, because I call it a brain dump. But when you're feeling that sense of feeling overwhelmed and starting to feel anxious and stressed, I want you to just put all these feelings down on a piece of paper. My brother taught me this technique, and he actually took index cards. I was in graduate school. And he said, okay, tell me every worry that you have. And I just purged and purged and purged all these worries that I had. He flipped the card over and he said, what do you have control over and what don't you have control over? And when you have this feeling of anxiety, it's often when you feel like you have no control over something. So try to pay attention to what do you have control over, and realize what can you do to make a difference in your world. The other thing that I think you can all do at home is quiet your mind and use mindful meditation. Use some time to just reflect and to think and be present in the moment, because research will show that being present in the moment is going to help with your overall well-being, especially when it comes to mental health. There is a great saying that I love that it says, whenever you're in a moment that is feeling very stressful for you, ask the question, what is this teaching me right now? What am I trying to learn from that? And trying to figure out what brings you joy, what passions do you have, and how can you share this joy and passion with others? Because when you live in a world of gratitude and gratefulness, your mental well-being, research will show, is also going to go up. And then another great technique is the power of visualization. Our athletes use this all the time, but every day that you wake up is a brand new day. Yesterday is dry cement, but today is a new day where you can ask yourself, what can I do? How will I visualize this day unfolding in the way that I want it to unfold? What do I have control over? What don't I have control over? And how can I move forward? There was another great saying that I heard that said, this is a wonderful day. I have never seen it before. So wake up every day and say that to yourself. Wow, I've never seen this day before. How am I going to shape it into the day that I want it to be?
Cindy, you might have to just start your own Zoom chats every day and just give lessons on well-being, because I don't know about Mike, Shane, and Emily, but I feel like I've learned more in the past 10 minutes than I knew in the first 30 years of my life.
Well, I learn from our students every day. I have to give them all the credit, really.
Cindy, just my final question obviously concerns our current state of affairs and the impact the current crisis has on our students and student athletes in regard to well-being. Just what are some helpful thoughts you have about that topic?
I think one of the most important things to recognize is that we are all hearing the news daily, and we're on social media, and we need to pay attention to that. And I think we need to be very intentional about unplugging at specific times during the day. And again, giving yourself the opportunity to pause, reflect, and think about what brings you joy, and recognizing that there are many things that are out of our control right now. Just like our athletes, like Em was saying, her whole senior experience this spring was cut short. But that was not in her control, but the way that she responds to it will be in her control. So what do you have control over, and start to think about moving forward in those situations.
Great advice, Cindy. Thank you very much. And that's a great segue, turning it over to our student athletes now. And Shane, we're going to start with you. You are now at bat, we'll say. I got lots of sports puns, so I'll bust one out for Emily too when it's her turn. But Shane, we're looking at well-being, and this has been we've talked about this topic obviously through S.A.I.L and everything, but what are some steps, some advice you have for student athletes out there now to maintain their well-being, and even when we return to the new normal that it's going to be when we get back to campus?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. First, I just wanted to say, Cindy, that was fantastic. I loved your quotes and everything, and I 100% agree with everything you had to say. I think for well-being, at least from a student athlete perspective, obviously no one expected any of this to happen. So I guess I would say there's two different ways of looking at it. One would be, how do you normally go about your day-to-day life in school and in terms of well-being, versus how do you do that, in quarantine? It's obviously two different things, because, in the one, like, you're with your friends, you're in season, you're playing, and then the other, it's just you in your house most of the time, just always in class. At least that's what it feels like sometimes. But yeah, it can definitely get to be stressful. I think well-being, at least in terms of when you're in your house so much, it really just comes down to what you're thinking and what your attitude is mentally. And I think that you can really do yourself a favor by, putting down the work, going outside, just taking in a breath of fresh air, because honestly, when you're on the screen for, so many hours a day, it gets to feel like the time just passes very quickly. That's one thing I've noticed a lot. So I think if you just put everything down for a second, go outside, enjoy the good weather, because, the world nothing is, obviously it's different that we're inside, but the world just keeps turning. So, definitely go outside and enjoy some fresh air every now and then. The one thing I will say in terms of like mindfulness that Cindy was talking about, for me, I kind of combined a physical aspect with mindfulness. And for me, I've personally found that to be yoga. And as a baseball player and former pitcher, yoga is actually something that's very key to maintaining flexibility. And also, since baseball is like a mental game, it definitely helps kind of zone in everything and get yourself like focused. But yeah, so I would say well-being, at least from my perspective, is just about going outside, doing things that are physical and mental, like yoga that helps me, but also just, recognizing that there's more to life than just, Zoom classes, and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So.
Yeah, great advice, Shane. As you mentioned, with your sport, you're successful if you fail 7 out of 10 times. I mean, that's kind of the norm at 300 batting average. So it's kind of interesting. S.A.I.L started up this year, Student Athlete Impact Leaders. Talk about the organization and how you guys as an organization help student athletes on campus.
Yeah, so S.A.I.L has actually been something that I've been very proud to be a part of this year. We've been able to reach out to basically every student athlete on campus through all of our representatives that have been great. I know for me personally with baseball, the guys love it when I give them the S.A.I.L update. So I'll give them a shout out for that. But I honestly think it provides a good platform for everyone to just come together and to talk about the things that you normally wouldn't talk about on a day-to-day basis in your sport. Because most of the time you're focused on doing drills or different repetitions of some kind of physical activity that will help you get better in your sport, but you don't really talk about the mental side of things, what you do outside of your sport, how you deal with classes, how you perceive everything on a day-to-day basis. That's the thing that S.A.I.L really helps you with. And for me, I've had my own struggles with baseball, and a lot of the guys, know that it's a very mental game. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to join S.A.I.L, was so that I could make everyone aware that there's so much more to just the drills and to the sport and to the game. There's a lot of preparation in many different aspects that all contribute to your performance. So I think just making people aware of what they can do mentally to prepare themselves, physically, and just to be aware that, there's more to your sport than just the game itself.
Yeah, great stuff, Shane. I'll come back to you with a final question too. So we're going to hand the baton off to Emily here. See what I did? And Emily, I was looking through your bio earlier today, just kind of refreshing my mind on where you've been in your career. You've got the list of accomplishments there with the extracurriculars. You've got S.A.I.L, GLC, been involved in Res Life, Honor Commission, editor of the Social Sciences Review. You've got a lot of different activities you've been involved in. Talk about how being an engaged member of the campus community lends itself to a greater sense of well-being.
Yeah, so I think like one kind of obvious aspect with that is being involved kind of just gives you a broader support system. And I know like a couple other people have touched on it. I definitely have a lot of support between my supervisors in Res Life, my supervisors in GLC. I know we had Andy on yesterday, and he's definitely been a great source of support for me for the last couple of years, as I've been a leadership mentor, as well as Paul. As well as Coach Hartzler, obviously, in athletics. So I have support kind of across all areas of campus. And so I think it's helped me kind of when I found times where I was struggling or kind of saw others struggling, I had people to reach out to. I think coming back from abroad was the biggest time where I saw like a shift in needing that support. I really enjoyed my abroad experience, but it was very different, obviously, than being in Gettysburg. While Amsterdam isn't exactly completely exotic compared to the US, they speak English, a lot of similar cultural norms, but still being in Europe for a couple months and coming back, probably not in the best track shape that I've ever been in my life, for sure. Was definitely really hard mentally for me. I'd kind of never been in that position. So definitely having support from Coach Hartzler, support in the GLC, and support through Res Life kind of got me through that. just having people to talk to kind of constantly when I was struggling, and then moving into this year kind of being injured pretty much until the last 3 weeks of the season. So kind of having that continued support and kind of recognizing that I had gotten the support earlier and kind of translating my injury into being able to support my teammates as opposed to being able to physically kind of support them on the track running. And I think just like that engagement, I think especially being a RA for the last 3 years and this year kind of being the RC of Patrick Hall, I definitely saw students struggling, and there were definitely students who didn't feel they had that support on campus. The students who didn't immediately get involved, the students who kind of just felt like they weren't making friends and connections kind of, and those are the ones that we typically see transfer, or the ones that we typically see kind of spiraling the most, I think, with mental health concerns. So I think I've seen it kind of across the spectrum, even in my role in GLC, working with participants in the leadership certificate who often tend to be first-year students and sophomores struggling kind of with finding their place on campus. I think like that's one program that we've seen real success with students kind of building that confidence and kind of finding that support system that they didn't really find kind of maybe initially, or they didn't think they would find. So I think, yeah, engagement's definitely just a great way to kind of stay connected, find that support, and also just kind of, I think, just feel better about yourself knowing that you kind of have that community around you.
You mentioned that support network that is out there. You know, my next question kind of concerns that specific thing. You know, what are some of the things the college is doing now to help support the well-being, physical, mental, as well as what are some things the college can work on in the future too?
Yeah, so I think separately across all the different things that I'm involved in, I've seen like different areas. So residence life in particular, with all the RAs, we go through kind of pretty intense training on well-being and kind of supporting the mental aspects of the student experience, as well as some of the physical. In athletics this year, obviously we saw S.A.I.L was a great resource for student athletes who might have been struggling kind of at the next level when we see students anywhere on campus, like really at like the height of their struggles, we have the care team kind of willing to step in and help. So I know Cindy's on that and has really helped me this semester with a few students that I've talked to, as well as kind of helped through the care system. Res Life is very involved in care. And then kind of in GLC, we just kind of see that extra support through our programs where students can be paired with the leadership coach. They have student leaders if they're in the certificate program, where they're matched specifically with like upperclassmen kind of overseeing their group. So there's like those direct connections that we see where we're trying to offer that support kind of proactively, I would say. I think overall on campus, we don't always do the best job of kind of having the conversation about mental health concerns and kind of raising awareness in mental health. I think athletics is one area that I'd like to see more initiatives coming out of it. And I think we're moving in a really great direction this semester until we kind of weren't on campus anymore. So I'm hoping that kind of continues into next year. But I know Cindy and I talked a lot about, as well as with Coach Cantelli, about doing like a well-being seminar or kind of like program for all the student athletes kind of later in the semester. And then also just kind of, you know, obviously continuing to build on the S.A.I.L program is going to be key, and maybe finding more of those cross-campus collaborations so that it's not just a student-athlete experience, it can be the whole student body experience.
Yeah, for sure, Emily. I know we were looking at ways to incorporate S.A.I.L more into the day-to-day with athletics throughout the year, and then this kind of interrupted our plans a little bit. I mean, we've been able to focus on the organization today, specifically with well-being. And I know there's an opportunity coming up with the NCAA. They're going to be featuring Mental Health Awareness Week, I believe is in early May, Cindy, if I'm not mistaken. So that might be something that we can involve everyone in as well. My last question for you, Emily, before I kind of circle back around to everybody else for our fun end-all question, is just what are your future plans? What are you looking to do when you get that degree in May?
Yeah, that's a great question these days as well. So initially my plan was to take a year or two off before grad school, look for jobs in the New York City area or the DC area, kind of get those entry-level jobs, kind of experience working in a policy arena before I got a degree. But given that jobs might be a little more limited these days, I kind of decided the last couple of weeks to apply to grad school. So I'm waiting to hear back from a couple grad school programs, mostly in the DC area. Hopefully looking at a degree in public policy, potentially with a concentration in social policy. So probably going to end up going back to school for a couple more years, but you never know.
That's great. Well, good luck with that decision for sure. The last question I have for everybody, just kind of reel everybody back in. I've ended every other chat with this question out there, and that's just, what's your favorite moment in athletics since you've been at Gettysburg? So what I want to do is just kind of start from the beginning and switch over to Mike. Mike, what do you think? You've actually coached against the Bullets several times at various institutions. So if you want to give a shout out to Paul Smith running up yards against F&M in '98, you can do that too, man.
Yeah, I do remember that. I actually coached at 2 other schools in the conference, so I have experienced Gettysburg on the opposite sideline. I'm so excited to be wearing the orange and blue now and being a part of the success that not just the football program, but every sport. Now being the head strength coach here, I enjoyed, having influence on all the different athletes at Gettysburg College. This is just a great place to be. As far as singling out a single moment, the thing for me, I don't know if it's a specific moment on the field. The thing for me that I enjoy are those times, those down times in the weight room between sets or during practice or in the meeting room where you're just able to connect with the different student athletes and get to know them on a personal level. And it goes right along with what we've been talking about. My undergraduate experience as a college athlete was the most influential 4 years of my life. It made such an impact on me that I wanted to pay it forward. And that's the reason I'm in this profession. So those times to me, and they're so numerous to single just 1 or 2 of them out, but that's the thing that I enjoy so much, especially at a place like Gettysburg College. We have some phenomenal young men and women on our campus, and it's neat to see and get to know the athletes, student athletes from all walks of life and all over the country. I enjoy that so much, and so glad to be a part of what's happening here at Gettysburg College.
Thanks, Mike. Now, Cindy, I asked this question of, Ann Lane and Bill Bowman and Kelly Jones, and they've got 3 decades under their belts as well. So can you pick one moment, or you just kind of lump some together?
It's hard. And I listened to the other videos as well. And of course, the Corey Weissman moments were fantastic and being a part of that journey. But for me, I think every year it's the Hall of Athletic Honor. And when I go to that, I find myself from a range of emotions throughout the evening of pure joy, sadness, seeing, people that I might not see again for a while, looking at the screen and seeing individuals come back that are older now, but they were 18 years old on the video that you put up, Corey. You do such a fantastic job with that. And it just, to me, highlights what we're all about with tradition and the power of athletics in the students' lives. And as we leave and the students graduate, they circle back and they remind us again and again of the connections that we had long after they've hung up their sport. And that's usually been my all-time favorite experience.
Yeah, and of course, you and Dave have had quite the run of former soccer players and tennis players that have gone into the hall lately, like Matt Rockstro, Christian Dreyer, Wes Bartlett, Chris Pryor, and we'll have many more in the coming years as well. Thank you, Cindy.
Yeah.
Shane, you are now in the batter's box, sir. What's one of your top moments from your 2 years at Gettysburg?
So, yeah, obviously I only have 2 years here, but a lot has happened in those 2 years, and I made a lot of memories with some pretty awesome people. So one thing that baseball players love is Hauser Fieldhouse 10 to midnight practice. Throughout preseason, baseball players love that. So I think that's kind of that's the one highlight of our preseason for sure. Fall ball is fall ball, but when you get to preseason, then it's, you feel the excitement of the season coming. And when you have those 10 to midnight practices in Hauser, Coach Campo always says, you're going to miss it one day. And, I'm starting to miss it, already. So that's actually one of 2 things. The second thing I would say is the week that we had in Florida this year. I mean, we played our butts off and we put up some really impressive numbers in only 3 or 4 days. I'm I'm really sad that the seniors that we have this year don't get to experience, the entire season because they really are the ones that were those team leaders for us in the fall when we needed it the most. I mean, if you look at our numbers from just the 10 games that we played this year versus all of last year, I mean, we were on, track to do some really good things. And, no one deserves to have this, happen to them. And obviously I'm with Emily for that too. And pretty much every, senior athlete. But when those guys talked to us in Florida for the last time, like, I don't know, I almost cried just hearing them. But that's something I'll definitely remember probably for the rest of my life because those guys are really special. So.
Yeah, you had a great group of seniors. We had a chance to talk to Joe Giovinco a few weeks ago, and nothing would have given me more pleasure to see him walk out in the ninth inning to shut down the opponent, walk all the way from second base to the mound anyways. And fun fact, we talked about well-being, and I've talked to Coach Campo about this. One of the reasons why he moved those practices to 10 to 12 was, to avoid some of the common hour, that 6 hour type stuff, the late classes, but also so we could spend more time with his family during the day too. So yeah, you guys had a great season. You hit 11 home runs in 10 games, and we only had, I think, 9 all of last year, and you had 4 of them last year. So you guys were off to a great season. Still expect more from you in the coming years, and hats off to the seniors and the leadership that they set too. So speaking of seniors, turning to Emily Wielk. I'm trying to come up with a track pun in my head. I guess I could say you're in the starting block now. So Emily, looking at you, and you lost your season this year, the outdoor season. You did get some indoor meets in there at the end. Talk about some of your favorite moments out there on the track.
Yeah, I mean, obviously 4 years, there's a lot of moments, a lot of meets. They all do start to blend together a little bit after a while. But I actually think one of the few meets that I got to run in this year was one of my favorites that I've kind of experienced in a while. So we go to Roanoke every year. The brutal 4-hour drive both ways in one day after, a brutal 6 to 8 hours at the track meet to begin with. But on Fridays before meets, the captains do like a little speech or do something to kind of get the team riled up and kind of ready to compete the next day. And before Roanoke this year was my turn. It was my first meet back after being injured since October. I'm not a great height person at all in general, so I was not thrilled to have to do this at all. So I kind of was like, what can I do? So kind of pulled a little trick out of my Res Life hat, and we played a game called Biggest Fan, which is basically just like glorified rock, paper, scissors. And we got everyone super riled up. They were just screaming and yelling. Everyone was super excited. I think Roanoke was arguably one of the best meets we had all year. So I think kind of just seeing the team camaraderie before the meet and kind of people being willing to be that excited to take a 4-hour drive to then run anywhere from 7 seconds to 5 minutes, 10, 15 minutes on the track is pretty amazing. And I think even kind of shocked Coach Hartzler how excited I got people, because anyone on the team knows it's not my personality. So I think it was just kind of pretty exciting to see. And I think got me a little more excited to kind of get back into the racing mode in general. So I think that'd be my favorite.
That's good stuff. And I've made that trek to Roanoke. So yeah, it is long. And if you spend a lot of time there, it's pretty boring. But they have nice facilities. So you give props to Roanoke for that.
They do have nice facilities.
All right, guys. Well, that does it for today's chat on well-being. I want to thank you all for spending some time with us. I wish we could have got it going on Facebook Live, but hey, we'll give it another go tomorrow with a different group, and hopefully it works. We'll post this on YouTube and Facebook later today. So again, I just want to say thank you. And signing off from Mike Hoyt, Cindy Wright, Shane Manieri, Emily Wielk, I am Corey Jewett. Go Bullets.